Check, check. We do have the front row if anyone wants it. No, okay, just no, just all right. Tim's lonely though.
Rather than just talking really slowly, I will hope that one of the other board members shows up soon. They both contacted me saying that they're on their way. Oh, perfect. Hooray. We have quorum.
Tucker, I'm also here for a quorum.
Oh, thank you, Julie.
Yep.
I'm yelling as though she can, like, she's just in the sky. All right. Welcome everyone to the October 14th regular board meeting for the Wenatchee School District. Today we're going to switch it up a little bit. We have the Wenatchee High School ROTC here to present the colors before the Pledge of Allegiance. Why don't you guys take it away? All right, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order. Armed. Right. Straight. Forward. Armed. Line. March. Right. Oh, that's all right. That happens. I am not going to give anyone a hard time about being late. So, welcome back to our regular meeting. Esta junta se lleva a cabo en inglés, pero contamos con servicio de traducción. Si alguien gusta hacer un comentario público o recibir explicaciones en español, por favor indique su necesidad. All right, we're going to work through the agenda now. Board, do we have any changes or modifications to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All right, the items on the consent agenda were sent to the board and posted online last week. The board has had the opportunity to review the materials and ask the superintendent any questions they have about any of the items on the consent agenda. The consent agenda for this meeting includes the minutes for the 9/15/25 board workshop and the 9/23/25 regular meeting, vouchers and payroll, personnel report, surplus report, contracts, and policy updates. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented in the document of the agenda.
Second.
All right, it has been moved by Martin and seconded by Mark. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of adopting the consent agenda as presented, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Now I'll turn over to Dr. Superintendent Callahar for the bright spots.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, we all got to experience the bright spot of having our ROTC color guard here presenting the colors. And we want to highlight the ROTC program tonight as one of the amazing opportunities afforded to our students. The ROTC program is part of our career and technical education program, and it includes many different aspects of student training. from the color guard, as we saw, marksmanship, drone training, and so much more. We're honored to have this opportunity for our students in the Wenatchee School District and to hear from some of our students tonight. Our students are here with United States Air Force Master Sergeant retired Larry Nilea. Did I say it right? Close enough. Gosh, so close. So we appreciate you being here tonight with the students. And students, we'd love to hear from you about how ROTC has become part of your student experience. So you're welcome to join us at the microphone here, standing together in solidarity. That sounds great. I love it. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to be with us.
We'll start with some introductions. So my name is Cadet Major Sierra Cook, and I'm a senior at Wenatchee High School. And I am currently the squadron commander of the unit here at the high school. And I just want to say the main reason why I joined Junior ROTC was because of the opportunities. I mean, Superintendent, as you said, drones, radar, marksmanship. I never would have done anything close to that with just a normal class, you know. I went to New Mexico, California, Utah, won all these competitions, and it's just been an amazing high school career that I've had, and some of the relationships that I've built with my staff members. I mean, it's awesome to see how normal high school students can change and grow and become leaders, you know, leading staff meetings, leading events, leading all these kind of different events. It's just amazing to see. Yeah.
Good afternoon. I am Cadet Captain Mendoza. I am a senior, and this program has been really great. How's it called? Something that I never thought I would do. For example, one of our newest, how's it called? Events that we added, not events, my bad, a new program to it is Baton Death March, something where I thought I would never do, something where I was like so shocked that I even signed myself up for it because I had to walk 26.2 miles, you know, and I was like, as soon as I signed up, I was like, what did I sign myself up to, you know? I got to the lining start and I was like, what is this? Like, am I actually gonna finish it? And I did. Why? Because this program developed me and made me such a better person than I was before in freshman year. Freshman year, I was very scared, very timid. I probably wouldn't even do this, you know? I'd probably be scared and I'd be like, no, no, thank you, I won't. But right now, this program built that courage, built that encouragement to actually come up and talk in front of everybody. And I've seen it in so many new cadets this year as well, where like they're so quiet at first, and then all of a sudden, right now, they're like speaking everywhere, very talkative, very communicative with like everybody in staff. And I'm so proud of this program, you know? Thank you guys.
Hi, I'm Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Brender, and I'm a senior at Wenatchee High School as well. I'm a fourth-year cadet, and I really enjoy the program. I've been it with 4 years, as with all of these guys here behind me, and we've been with the program the whole time, and I'm really thankful for that. We've been here since the program started. We got lucky enough to be able to be freshmen when the program started and help build it to be the program that it is now and help all the cadets that are in it. I think my favorite part about the program is the confidence building, definitely. I think all of our cadets, I see improvement in confidence. We see so many cadets come in and they barely talk in class. And by the time it's the next year and they're leading and they're leaders for all of our other students, and all of our classes have leaders. They're called element leaders, and all of them are second year cadets who were really nervous their first time, and now they're doing great. And I really enjoy the program. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Cadet Major Alex Anguiano, and I'm a senior at Wenatchee High School, a fourth-year cadet, and I currently serve as the Special Projects Officer. We've got a lot of great programs here at the Wenatchee School District, but there's something truly special about the Junior ROTC program. And what you're seeing before you tonight is a true example of what our mission is in the Junior ROTC program. So everything from leadership opportunities to public speaking, our cadets truly have had all of the tools that they need to be successful throughout their high school career, but also throughout the rest of their lives. There's something really special about the culture that we've built here. Senior Nahalea and the cadet staff that I've worked with is, it's been really, really rewarding to see how the program has grown in only 4 years. We've been able to accomplish things that other units have taken twice as long to do. And I think it comes down to what the program is based on, and also the skills that we've practiced and refined throughout this program. So yeah.
Board members, any questions or comments for our students?
I think you answered the one question that I was going to ask. I believe all four of you are founder members of the ROTC at Wenatchee High School. Well, congratulations. It must have been exciting to start, and over there too. And it was a bold effort for you to go into something that was totally new, and the continuity that you demonstrate in doing this. So I'm going to throw in a different question. You talk about experience in aviation and going outside the state and summer programs. Is part of your program one where you connect with other ROTCs regionally, and do you have any contact with similar units in other high schools in Washington State?
Yeah, so most of the competitions that we do and we organize, whether it be drone competitions, radar competitions, and then marksmanship, we travel to other junior ROTC high schools and we meet 4 to 5 teams from junior ROTC, and we meet there all to compete. So it's really awesome to see how, like, to talk to other cadets and see how they run it, what are some issues and how did they overcome it. It's really interesting to talk with them and see what is different than our unit from their unit. So yeah, we do try to stay in contact with a lot of junior ROTC just to have that sort of something to push off of, or if we have questions, then because a lot of junior ROTC units, they're older than us. So if a problem arises, then and we can't solve it ourselves, then we go to them. So that's really nice.
Thank you. That was a great answer.
All right, I have one too. Since you guys when you were a freshman, there was no, this is what the program looks like. So has it been nice to be able to kind of, as a senior, be a mentor for not just the program, but also like the kids coming in that don't know what to expect? What's that kind of transition been from you guys now have had an ROTC program your whole high school experiences, instead of showing up and being like, I don't know, and everyone else is kind of in the same boat?
Yeah. So I wanted to share kind of what the perspective was when I signed up for the program. So my 8th grade year, we were super excited because there was this new program out there, but our class sign up date was actually before Colonel or Senior came to our middle schools to talk about what the program looked like. So it was kind of a leap of faith a little bit, but now it's really neat because we've been able to work super closely with our middle school counselors to kind of give the middle schoolers a taste of what the program looks like. And one of our goals is to reach as many students as possible, because not everyone who's joined the program necessarily envision themselves here in their high school career. And so it's something that once we lay out all of the options and we break down what junior ROTC truly is, we get a lot of interest. And so it's neat that we have so many areas of interest that we can offer to our students. So to kind of sum it up, we try to work with outreach to our younger grades to kind of get this in their heads and thinking about if they'd like to do this in high school.
If I can get in there too, I want to talk. We're always preaching about cadet led, cadet run. That's something that seniors are always talking about, and I think it's a great point. And so when our program started off, it was kind of tough because everyone's kind of new. Nobody knows what's going on. So senior kind of really had to step in there. But it's been really cool over the years to just get more and more cadet led, cadet run. Each year, our cadets are doing more work, putting in more hours, shaping the program to how it can be better. And I feel like that's a really cool aspect of it, being able to shape that program for the future cadets. Next year, we're not going to be here and teach the leaders and not just be the teachers of the teachers. And it's really awesome. Yeah.
All right, those were exceptional answers to a vague, wandering question. So well done. Thank you.
This is wonderful to have you guys. When the program was initially started, we got a presentation and I was a little skeptical just because, well, I didn't know much about the program. To me, it was like, oh my gosh, they're going into the middle schools recruiting at such a young age, right? And just through the last 4 years, I've gotten the pleasure of meeting Cadet Anguiano and whatnot. And just seeing you guys up here, it's dynamic. My question to you guys is, what are your plans for next year? Because I believe all you guys mentioned you're seniors.
Yes, so for me, my plan for next year after graduation is to go into the Air Force. It's something that I've, how's it called, always thought since I was in middle school. This is the reason why I took the program as well, because I was like, if I take the program and it's an Air Force program, it's going to shape me into what I'm going to see up ahead in my, how's it called, future now, because obviously I'm a graduate. But yeah, I'm planning on going to the Air Force, and that's my step for next year.
Well, to be completely honest, the reason I joined the program was not for the military aspect at all. I really like planes. I've always wanted to fly and just super interested in planes. Ever since I was in elementary school, I've always been talking about that. So I heard an Air Force program, like Air Force planes. There's a connection there. So I'm going to join ROTC. And it's really great. And it's not a recruiting program. And I'm sure you've been told that, but it really isn't. It's a character building program. And I think that's the cool part about it. Like, we do some aerospace stuff and I get to learn about planes, which is great. But the part that really kept me is the leadership aspect and the character development part. And so my plan is I'm going to a ROTC program at a college and enlisting or joining the Air Force as an officer through that ROTC program.
Did I hear that you have your pilot's license? Is that correct as well?
Yep. Last summer I got my pilot's license. So yeah, that's been really great.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
So my plans for next year, I'm applying to the Air Force Academy in Colorado, and the junior ROTC here has really helped me, gain those responsibility, the teamwork, the attention to detail. It's really helped me kind of shape where I want to go. And I was in a military family, so I was always moving around, always being part of a new school, new friends, and so it really opened me up to that military aspect of hard work and character building and leadership. I really wanted to be a part of that and serve this nation. So that's what I'm doing.
Similarly to Cadet Brender, I also joined out of interest for aviation. And I think it also is a legitimate concern or a thought that crosses people's minds that it is a recruiting program. And for that reason, I was a little wary to join it my first year. But this program has given me a solid foundation in aeronautical knowledge and things that and skills that I'd like to apply as a commercial airline pilot. So after this, I'm looking at airline academies across the US. And so I think that this program has given me wonderful skills in terms of public speaking, leadership opportunities, and also aeronautical knowledge as well.
Yes. Mark, anything or? Yes. Well, thank you for being here tonight. We are hugely impressed with the progress that you made. It's been personally a joy for me to watch all four of you grow through the last 4 years and become the impressive students that you are today. And we wish you the best of luck. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we will now move on to citizen comment. If any member of the public would like to make a citizen comment, please sign up online 15 minutes before the meeting or complete a citizen comment form. Forms are available at the room's entrance and should be turned into the board secretary, Kim White. English and Spanish speakers will be allowed 3 minutes of comment time with additional time allowed for translation. Ms. White will keep a timer that will notify you when your time expires. Please be aware that the board's role is to receive comments. They will not respond to questions or challenges, and the board silence does not signal agreement or endorsement of the speaker's remarks. We have citizen comments. That's
We do. First up, we have Michelle Costanza.
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Callahar. My name is Michelle Costanza, and I am proud to serve as Vice President of the PSE Wenatchee Association and as a paraeducator in this district. Since the end of last school year, we've been in negotiations with the district, and we still haven't reached an agreement. I encourage you to speak with HR for the details so you can understand why we're here tonight. I am speaking for the paraeducators, secretaries, professional and technical staff who support students one-on-one, manage classrooms, keep offices running, and sustain the daily heartbeat of our schools. These are the people who make this district run every single day. What's at stake is more than numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about respect, fairness, and recognition for the people who keep our schools running. Let's be clear, our members are not asking for anything unreasonable, just a fair contract that reflects the hard work we already do. We have seen 3 contracts this district has settled this year, and the comparisons speak for themselves. You can see why our members voted no. The current offer simply does not show the same level of respect or value. This isn't about extra money. It's not about more paid time off. It's about being fairly compensated for the essential work that allows teachers to teach, students to learn, and schools to operate. We do this because we care deeply for our students, our teachers, and this community. We don't see this as an expense. We see it as an investment in the heart of the district, in the people who keep this district moving, in the relationships that make our schools strong. An investment that says, you matter, we hear you, you make the difference. Our proposal is fair. It's what it will take to rebuild trust and ensure a yes vote from our members. We want to continue being proud to work for the Wenatchee School District, but that pride must be matched by fair recognition and compensation. Tonight, I urge you to see this not as a financial burden, but as an opportunity to show people who keep this district running that you value them as partners, not as costs. Please invest in your classified staff, show them they matter, and let's move forward together with fairness, dignity, and unity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Liz Lewis.
Good evening. My name's Liz Lewis, and I serve as the president of PSC Wenatchee Association. I've been with the school district for 26 years, and I work in the IT department. I'm here tonight to share why 84% of the classified employees voted no on the last tentative agreement and what that vote really means. Our members are sending a clear message. They are frustrated, they are overwhelmed, overworked, and feel undervalued. Every day, classified employees are the backbone of this district. We show up, we give our all. But we need to know that the district values that work, not just in words, but in our contract. We've looked closely at how resources are being allocated. We've compared what's on the table for our group to what other bargaining units have received. The disparities are hard to ignore. This isn't about being unreasonable. It's about fairness. It's about being treated with the same dignity and respect as every other employee group. We are not responsible for the district's financial challenges, but we feel we are the ones that carry the burdens of them. We are asking for a fair, sustainable contract that begins to restore trust and shows that Wenatchee values all of its employees. We're not asking for special treatment. This is your largest group of classified support staff. An investment that says you matter, we hear you, and you make a difference. Please invest in the people who keep this district running every single day. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure how to pronounce this one. Caitlin Vinneberg.
Hi, I'm here also to talk about Paris situation. A lot of the teachers in the school district, as you know, are overwhelmed. Expectations on them are heavy. And as para support professionals, we want to be a support to them. And no one gets into this job in any level of education unless you're addicted to helping kids. And we've all been bitten by that bug, no matter what that is. But as paras, I've been working in education for over 20 years. Been in this district. This is my 5th year here in this particular district. There have been seasons where I've been hit every day to dealing with special education kids, but wanting to see them grow and develop. There's been times where, yeah, you're just doing so many unexpected things in the role and wanting to support any way that you can. But with the experience that I've had, and I'm on the higher end of the salary scale for paras, at the end of the month, I receive $1,650. How are we supposed to live off of that? How does that show that we value people? How does that show that? Most people who are in a para position have to have another job, and I am one of them who has another job. But you get tired of working 2 jobs. Even if you have that bug of addiction, you get very tired of it. And so a lot of people leave. A lot of good people leave. A lot of people who really care about kids leave. And is it easier? Can people be replaceable once you have experienced people on a team? Is that over? Oh, okay. Yeah. When you have experienced people, don't you want to keep them? And there's a lot of people who leave because of the salary. And it's not because they don't love kids or love education or aren't committed. It's just hard. And I feel like compared to other districts, why are we faced with this level of poverty? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, something like that wraps it up. Corey, I want to turn it over to you for special presentations.
Yes, thank you everyone for coming out tonight and standing together again in solidarity. We appreciate you being here. And you're welcome to stay and listen about cell phones as well too. So I asked our high school leaders to be here this evening to discuss the phone-free policy for the Wenatchee School District and the implementation of the Yonder pouches. We placed this presentation kind of far enough into the school year where we thought the honeymoon period might be over and we could hear the realities of dealing with this situation. But in order to maintain the integrity of the phone-free districts in our school, we appreciate all of your efforts and all of your work. So thank you for being here. I know that we have one presentation and 3 leaders, so you guys are welcome to join us. So thank you. Appreciate you being here. Thanks, everyone. Yeah. Make sure your cell phones are put away. Yeah.
See that we can really get behind, this would not have worked. So I want to please applaud you for standing strong. We've had nothing but positive feedback from our stakeholders of parents. They are right behind you and understand the impact that we're making. So thank you. Cell phone free at Wenatchee High School is surprisingly going better than expected. I expected it to go well, but we are really thrilled with how our students have responded and how our teachers feel in those learning environments. So I'll just quickly go over a little bit of what we have. So for us as administrators and support staff, we wanted to make sure you knew just some bullet points. We have 0 cyberbullying happening within the building. So typically our student services team is busy with pictures being taken, with harassing comments being made around classmates. And as of now, we are experiencing some real highlights with how students are treating each other without the phones. Another real high point is we thought maybe students would stay home if they couldn't bring their phone to school. That was a fear. Oh, I'm going to stay home. But they're feeling left out at home. There's no one with phones at school, so they got to get to school. It's up 2%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's missing less than 3 days so far this school year. So that's trending in the correct way. The building is loud. Much louder than it used to be. As we watched the conversations in the past, it was looking for aggression, fighting, anything that we would scan to look for. Now, when you look out and about, you're seeing lots of students just loud talking, having a great time, which has been great. It's the passing periods and lunch is really seeing what you had hoped for, is that students wouldn't only learn at high levels, but they would also start to respond with real connections to their peers, which we are excited about. I don't want to read all of these, but I think I really wanted to point out that our parents are behind this 100%. We are getting nothing but support. They're thanking us profusely, even when we're catching their student with a burner phone in the pouch, plus having one in their pocket. They understand that this is what's best for their child, and we really appreciate that.
Is it true that I've heard that parents have called the school to say that their kids called them during school?
True.
Yeah.
True. Or please search, but don't tell them that I called. Yeah, don't tell them that though. Don't put that on the record. And the last thing that I've really noticed, this is my oh gosh, my 30th year, 29th year in Wenatchee School District. So I was able to teach without phones. I was able to be an administrator without Snapchat. And then I lived the nightmare of phones and Snapchat as an administrator, and coming in, just really seeing students with a desire to connect not only with their peers, but with the adults in the building. And that you'll see happening with our support staff as well as teachers and administrators. And that's been just such a highlight. Next up, our teachers. I think this is the best thing Wenatchee High School has done for students in years. Best decision, biggest impact on learning. They do feel students are more engaged, accomplishing things quicker, which starts to address, all those years of we don't have enough time, I don't want to do my homework. Students are recognizing that too, that they're able to get much more done. And then this is a real bright spot. They're noticing students that typically have struggled socially, just maybe not having a strong peer group outside of school, are more pulled in classroom settings without those phones because they can't hide behind it, but also other students, you're going to reach out and you're going to start to connect, and it's pulling in some of those more quiet students in that learning environment. What students have to say, we have intentionally not asked all students yet. I mean, when you change a habit, we want to give time for you to see the measurement. We're going to measure in a couple different ways, discipline as well as our 9th grade screener that's coming up around their mental health. And we'll also measure just with their academic success at semester. We're going to compare that to last year and then send out a feedback form to students about how they're feeling about the phone. But at our supervisory council luncheon, these were high schoolers from Wenatchee that I have shared with our staff. And one of the best ones is they feel teachers care more. And what teachers feel is students care more. And really what we know is they're just more present in what's going on, which is now increasing ability to be motivated to work with each other. So that's great. Let's see. And then as you want to dig through, we just wanted to make sure you knew about the same approach to attendance. We still have some chronic absences we need to deal with, but we really feel that the cell phone free environment is helping actually with our attendance goal. And if you want to, we asked staff, we tried to give them a compare from last year, your time before phones. And let me just slide up one more. So we asked, how would you rate students' moods in the classroom compared to last year? 5 means better, 4 a little better, and 3 the same. So what we might have predicted is students were going to struggle, and maybe we are going to be concerned a bit more about their social emotional health, their addiction. What we're seeing is they're pretty resilient, which is what we know as parents and as educators. They are stepping up and doing a lot of hard work, and we're really proud of them. Same thing with how do you feel you rate your level of connection? We can see an increase. They are connecting with their teachers more, and teachers feel it, which it's not just what we think, but these are 58 responses from teachers in the classroom. So. And then teachers care more, the learning's more fun, students are more engaged. You can see that we've got 40% feel like it's better than last year. Students are coming to class prepared to be engaged, to do the work. And again, we're just super proud of what's happening. This just goes into the same thing. What we did wonder is, what about off task? Used to be off task was you're looking at your phone. What does it look like without the phone? Teachers are not recognizing a big difference in off task behavior. As administrators, our push-ins, we're recognizing some old behaviors. Remember when you used to make paper football? Haven't seen those for a long time. They're back. So just don't worry. They're going to find ways. But really just honestly, minor behaviors typical of some of our younger kids who are needing to try to figure out ways to stay engaged. So, and then we wanted to just address, because this principal this year, I was a little concerned. I was getting more concerned as I got closer to embarking on a cell phone free school about just what level of mental health rise we were going to see. And this is really good news that we have not seen a significant increase in students needing to use our regulation room. But one good news is we are seeing an increase in students sharing a lot more of their outside stress with our social workers. We maybe have made more CPS phone calls, but that we believe is because the students are feeling a bit more safe in the building to share what's going on outside of the building. So that's been, unfortunately, good news, but also disheartening to think that might not have been going on when they were hiding behind their phone, but now they're really having to unpack what's going on outside of the building. And just my point being, yes, we have people trying to sneak phones in. Yes, we are searching students if they say they do not have a Yonder pouch and they did not bring a phone. So we're making sure that phone, if you are sneaking it in, it's hard to do. It's got to be out of sight where we won't be able to find it. But I think that the good news is the work we're doing on the back end is paying off in that classroom setting. So,
Donna, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Do you think we could do it without the Yonder pouches? The teachers I talked to who've said, I don't think so, because it's such a clear line. Like it goes into the pouch, it's in the pouch. If you see a phone, why isn't it in the pouch?
Yep.
But I'm interested to hear what you.
Yeah, and then we did try to, before the pandemic, we tried to tighten it down, and it was to be in your backpack, and it didn't work as well. But we also didn't have as much buy-in from families as we do now. But I think the Yonder pouch, what it does beyond lock a phone, it requires a student to make a decision before they walk in the building to be honest or not. So when they're not being honest, it's really clear to staff that we need, there's no reminders, there's no, oh, please try. It's real black and white. And that's been the success of the Yonder pouch. So when you ask, could we do it without? I don't think we could have. Honestly, I think we needed something that would have students rise in character to put it away and not give us the runaround as a high schooler might want to do sometimes. Okay, yeah. All right, who wants to go next?
I got the short end of the stick of the high school administrator height line there, that's for sure. I am Jennifer Devereaux, principal at Westside High School, and so many echo so many things that Donna said. It's really had a huge positive impact on our school. I did do a little survey of students. We have right now about our enrollment's about 285 students total in all of our 6 programs. Our day school program mimics much of what a traditional schedule would look like. We have about 165 students in that program. And the survey that we did went out to mainly our day school students. So about 84% of them say that they always or mostly lock their phones in their pouches. And if they have not, a few of them say, I forgot, I needed it for something else, or I just kept it in my backpack. It really wasn't a big deal. And I think that's what we see a lot of is we at Westside are not checking every single pouch when they come in the door. We don't quite have the capacity to do that with our many programs and various times that students are entering the building for alternative hours and things like that. But overall, teachers are saying they're not seeing them in the classrooms. And so we have about 4 students who their phone has come to the office for the remainder of the day because it was seen out. And that's it. We have 2 students that are on a plan to turn their phone in every day and into the office and then earn their way back to the pouch. So we're just kind of taking those really case by case basis. But teachers are very happy with what they are seeing in the classroom. We are an open campus for all students. So when students choose to leave during lunchtime, leave the building, they do have access to unlock their phone and then relock it when they come back in. We've also provided a lot of as many activities as we can. Some of our teachers are volunteering some time during lunches to show movies or to have card games in their room. We also purchased a lot of board games and card games to just have out in the cafeteria and the learning center during lunch times. We've got foosball and ping pong and an outdoor basketball court. So just kind of trying to utilize and make as many opportunities available for kids as we can. For sure, the kids that hid behind their phone. We have just really seen them grow and blossom. The Chromebook is the second, is their second, go-to for replacing that phone. But we are thankful that we have the ClassWise program that teachers can continually monitor what is going on Chromebooks for students as well. We are overall families are very, very supportive in terms of the program and not having phones in schools. There definitely were a few that were a little bit concerned and students as well, especially in conversations about lockdown or safety issues. And we've been able to talk those out with families so that they really understand the what, the why behind it, what it would look like in a lockdown. And their most important job as a student is to really be listening to the adult in the room so that they can find out what safety instructions would be next and the danger of having so many people on their phone in that situation. So we've been able to talk through those and we've come out of those conversations with really good understanding. In the beginning of the school year, we have a kind of a slow start to school. We bring in the first day of school, all of our new students who are brand new to Westside. The second day, we bring in all of our returning students. And then the third day on Friday is all students together. During orientation for both new students and returning students, I had a presentation where we talked through the policy and I talked about Jonathan Haidt, the author of The Anxious Generation, the 4 foundational harms, about what this is doing to us to really kind of bring that why to students and help them understand that. And as soon as that presentation was over, we talked about what will happen if the phone is out. And we did 1, 2, 3, let's put it in the pouch. So kids were given the pouch right before they came to that assembly. And then we all put the phones in the pouch at the same time, locked them up. So we kind of had that solidarity together. We can do this. We brought the magnets around to show them how to unlock it. And we tried to make it just as fun of a process as it could possibly be during that time. We've had several kids say, I don't miss it. I only miss it when I reach for it. like it's just a physical habit. I'm reaching for my back pocket. Lots of kids carrying their pouch around because it just feels good to have it in their hand or right there on the desk where they can see it. And many kids who were frequent flyers with phones say, I'm so glad that we did this. I'm getting so much more work done, the focus in the classroom. So it's been really great. And on that final day of orientation, we were blessed. Sage Hills was there to provide a fun party for our students. We call it the Back to School Bash. And they come in for about an hour and a half, and it usually goes until right before school's out. It got done early this year, about a half an hour early. And there was a little bit of panic, like, what are we going to do now for this last half hour? Everybody's done. We're not leaving from school yet. It's not time to go home. And it was amazing. All the kids came inside. We just kind of walked around and everybody was sitting at a table. Every table had a teacher at it. Some of them brought chess game from their room. They brought cards. It was just really it's just such a beautiful thing to see all of these kids talking. One of our photographers took some great pictures. They're on our Facebook page of just kind of that day. And Eric Anderson showed up just, 3:00 that day. And I had just kind of done a walk around and just to soak it all in, just to know what we came from, know how worried we were about this, and to see what we saw. And I literally had tears in my eyes, and Eric came up to the door and I walked right to the door and I'm like, you've got to come with me. And he's, oh my gosh, what's going on? Just panic. What's happening? I said, no, you've got to see this. And so we walked around together and it was so loud. It was just a really, really beautiful experience. We may say the honeymoon is a little bit over, which is okay. We're working through this and we're always finding new things every day that are challenging us. But that camaraderie between our students who have just met each other, so many times we heard kids say, I'm so glad to meet you. Like, it's so great to meet you and sit with you and talk with you. So it's a huge game changer for our school. And we're very thankful that the board stepped this direction. It's doing great things for our kids, for their mental health. It's doing great things for teachers in the classroom. And just look forward to being able to continue this process and help change kids' minds to where we hope that they will go in that positive direction, believing in themselves and finding that hope for their future and not being lost in a screen. So thank you all very much.
Good evening, Pete Jelsing, again, Wenatchee Valley Tech Center. Interesting enough, did something that my building and staff, we've always talked about, like, and we've attempted on the side. So when we talk about can we do it without yonder pouches? We attempted for many years and it was always a struggle. So when Corey came to me, Superintendent Kalahar, sorry, came and said, hey, do you want to be a part of this? And I'm like, whoa, okay, yeah, we do. I already knew that our staff, he goes, well, check with your staff. I did. I checked with our staff really quick, but I got back to him and said, yes, hands down, this is what they want. Again, in our building, there's a bunch of different things and there's safety issues, the distractions of being on a phone when you're using heavy equipment, you're not paying attention. So these are definitely things that in even industry, these are important things that we hear from our community members and advisories. So when I went to them, we had just a quick meeting on it and they were like, oh, Chelsea, yeah, here's just another crazy idea. And I said, no, we're going to have yonder pouches. And I was looking it up and I showed it to them and they're first like, well, we're on board, but that looks pretty crazy and not going to work. And I was like, hey, we're going to give it a shot. The point to that, I think, is when we have discussed it, it is, and I keep using that, the yonder pouch is a tool. And I do think that it is an important tool, a part of to making the success that we've been having. The other piece that I just want to give kudos specifically here was the amount of time and effort as we prepped our students, our families, and community. I just do not believe it would have happened unless we were sitting down and talking. And we talked on and off for months trying to get this right. And so I do think the preparation was very, very important when it came to that. I would say, as far as staff, they've all had a lot of really positive things. Students, what I've noticed the most is we have 2.5 hours, in our sessions. We don't really have travel or passing time. So for us, it's locked in, for about 2.5 hours. What we've definitely seen is instructors having to step up because we're not having the phone distractions and other things. But that's been a super important thing, and a conversation that we've had during our staff meetings, like, oh, we now have, I think, a lot more time that we don't have to address a lot of the things that Donna and Jen have talked about. The other thing that was kind of nerve-wracking for me was sending out this message for the first time that says we are going to go cell phone free. And it's not just Wenatchee students. My total fear was that no other kids would come to me from other districts. I mean, I knew the high school. Like, I was like, oh no, Corey, Sean, no money. So, well, I can't say that. But anyways, that was definitely a concern. And I will tell you, we're now in over a month. Not one. We haven't had anyone leave related to, we haven't had issues related to putting our cell phones away. Ours is, we're doing a little bit different. We do have the yonder pouches, but the way we have it set up is Wenatchee and West Side students come in, they have their own, they're taking it at home, they're bringing it to us, for the second half of their day. For all of our other students outside, we just purchased classroom sets. So when they come into their classrooms, boom, they're locking those things up. But end of the day, we don't spend a whole lot of time either checking each yonder pouch. I've got some instructors put it here on top of your desk. I have some, we put them next to our classroom sets of Chromebooks where they're charging. So it's next to their Chromebook. Seems to work pretty well. But our ultimate thing is no cell phones visible. And again, it's really been pretty successful. I had staff go and send me a bunch of comments, and I've got a couple wise guys that are like, who would have thought that the yonder would get us there, and all these different, and I'm like, yeah, but we're doing it. So Donna and I had another very interesting just conversation right here that it didn't hit me until she hit me and said, I think it's true. So we all know throughout the district, we all have our vape sensors and this different stuff. And I kind of looked at her and said, hey, how's that been going, year 2? And she's like, we're not having them. And I was like, yeah, I think ours are broken. I do not know what's going on. It's not beeping. It's not doing. So I had someone test it for me, and they still work, but they're not in there. And one of the things that Donna was talking about, and I was like, whoa, a lot of times in these situations, kids are going to the bathrooms, they're on their phones and they're plotting, hey, meet me in the bathroom. And so I just find that amazing and just an awesome stat that we will all be watching as far as they might be doing somewhere else, but they're not going to the bathroom. They're not getting on their phones talking about where they're going to meet up. And I think that is a huge, huge thing. So I super appreciate the support, cabinet and the board for putting it all together and spending the money. It is by far one of the most well done things that we've done in a very long time. So thank you very much. Questions, I guess. Yes.
Yeah, I do have a detailed question, really. I was interested in Donna's comment that you had more people referring to social worker. I was interested in West Side, you actually went out and did some investment in alternative recreation activities. And so those are kind of supportive details that you would need to take care of. So in general, how important was that? But specifically, social worker, I know we've got an intern this year. I don't know whether we always have an intern. So my question, too much detail is did you fortunately have some extra people, or what would it have been burdensome having the extra demand?
I think what's happening is there's just a more authentic connection being made when a student's processing emotions now. So I don't know if it's been a true uptick in how many students they're seeing. We have had an uptick in our student concerns where teachers let us know someone's struggling, which has been great. But I think our social workers are just getting into more authentic conversations. And since they're not able to, I don't know, numb the stress that they're feeling outside of school or inside of school, I think it's just breeding a space to share what's really going on. That's what they're telling me for the most part. So the good news is they were feeling that in the past, that stress was happening, but they weren't taking the time to process it. They were hiding it or disassociating with the use of their phone. And now I think they're just really having to unpack it. And they're always busy. Like we have 2 social workers plus our counselors doing a lot of work, and we do have an intern and we try to get one. I was just talking to him today. He was checking in yonder pouches. I'm like, really? You got to work for us for a whole year for free? Like, I'm sorry, but thank you for being here. Like, so yeah.
Well, I guess I would add a comment. Thank you for working the corners of the little other changes that go to support it.
Yeah. Same at the high school. Students are learning how to play cards and just things they didn't know even existed. So it's been fun. But mostly they're talking. They're sitting around just as we do in groups and talking about nothing.
How are staff and teachers taking on? Because it's not just a kid problem.
Well, I don't want to keep, I at our opening day for staff, I gave a example of when I parented youngins, and my husband and I at that time used to enjoy ice cream at night. And I talked about how we'd often wait till our kids went to bed, and then we would quietly scoop up our ice cream so that they wouldn't know that we were indulging in ice cream. So the big joke is if you've got to eat your ice cream, do it privately. Be respectful. Tell your students why you have your phone, why you need it for work, and if you do have to step out on a family situation, that you're doing that in private. So I think our staff has really stepped up. Even as administrators, we would often, do some work as we're walking around the hall to go grab a push-in, or at lunch, I might look at my email notification, and we are keeping them in our pockets as well. And some of our staff are getting lots of jokes from students. Where's your yonder pouch? If you have your phone out. So that's positive pressure that way too.
I know that when Eric and Diana and I are at the high school, we're the only ones in the hall with our phone out, and we feel so we've learned to duck into some corners and do what we need to do as well. So we're positive role models. But I want to echo your sentiment. I want to thank the board for the support for this process, allowing the district, Eric and I, and Mike Lane, and all of you to take a year and a full academic school year to explore the options, have conversations with community members, have conversations with students, have a community open house that was very poorly attended, but was there nonetheless for our community to have a voice. So thank you to the board for that. Thank you for taking on the challenges of the real-time work and setting that climate and culture where students feel safe and comfortable with the phones. And thank you for your presentation tonight. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Okay, we rolling into discussion
Yeah,
time, Tucker?
discussion.
Let's
Do it.
roll in. Okay, so State and Federal Programs Director Tim Shepard is here with us this evening to discuss the Local Control Accountability Plan, lovingly known as the LCAP. And also to talk to us about school improvement plans for our other schools that have state-directed improvement plans. So the LCAP, just to give you a little bit of insight, is very much like the district's annual improvement plan. And this year has taken on a role of guiding the work of the other buildings through their individual school improvement plans. That's why we're taking time out of our board meeting to actually showcase this. The district itself, through Tim's guidance and leadership, has played a more guiding role and taken a more holistic leadership approach to the LCAP this year, as well as we've added family engagement, attendance elements to all of our school improvement plans district-wide. Yesterday, Tucker and I were discussing the presentation in our monthly meeting, and we're both excited about the intersection of the LCAP and the equity program review, which we discussed during a board workshop in September. Tucker will share a little bit more on that later, but the plans that you'll hear tonight and saw in the board packet will be back on the agenda on October 28th for an action. We have to approve these plans. So Tim, thank you for leading the work in the district and for joining us this evening. And Liz, this is the one that this is just the document that you might be able to pull up for our people at home to take a look at as well.
Well, you did a great introduction, Dr. Kalahar. Thank you very much for doing that. So I just really want to provide just a basic foundation on the LCAP and its significance and how it really supports school improvement along the way and therefore student outcomes. So really the purpose, I highlighted some key words there, is increasing transparency around improvement supports, making sure that it's out and about, aligning district goals and resources, identifying opportunities and resource inequities. That's an important part of it. Really that the LCAP is a guiding document for the district, but also then for schools. So that school district connection is super strong. And then it's a place where you're documenting areas of opportunity. So those are really the 5 main purposes behind the LCAP. There's 6 steps really that you go through as you're working on your LCAP. And this is very similar to what it would be for a school that does a consolidated plan for their buildings. Many of the same steps in it. So you'll see a lot of what you'll hear about tonight in the school plans for those that are using the consolidated plan. So the first thing you start with is your Washington State Improvement Framework, the WSIF, and that came with this when it came out in 2015 with the Every Student Succeeds Act, which took over for Nickleby. So that's where the ESSER came in. So you look at your state improvement, that's where you identify schools that need extra support. So you could, and that WSIF data is on the report card. The next thing that you would do is using what you gain from the WSIF is you would do a comprehensive needs assessment. That's where you're organizing information from OSPI or the data portal that's provided for you. You would collect data on resource inequities in your district, which could be budgeting, staff, access to specialized programs. You can determine and collect data that's in district and other relevant data. And what you're trying to do is to capture a good picture of where you're at, where your students are, what resources you have, how you're using them, and how are we making sure that we're aligning our resources with those schools that need extra support, which then gets to the students that need that extra support. Then schools, and then there's the school improvement plans. So they start working on their plan and based on their own comprehensive needs assessment that they're doing at the building level. So and our part as a district to the LCAP is to ensure that we're supporting them along the way. And that's where we're taking a more comprehensive look at this now to make sure that that's what we're doing. It's not just to have this other plan that's not connected to anything, not connected to your strategic plan, not connected to the needs of the buildings. So it's to bring that connection together and that we're supporting that. So we're aligning our SIPs with our district-wide strategic priorities and improvement efforts, so our strategic plan. And then the SIP must include how the interventions will support SIP goals and improve student outcomes. and what measures will be used. So that's just like what we have in our LCAP, SIP plans need to have that same information in there. So once the schools have theirs put together or as put together as they can in that time frame, it's difficult because you're looking at last year's results, trying to predict for the future what's going to be needed. And sometimes the data is lagging. You don't always get your data till like the middle of the year. So it's almost a year behind, except from your newest data that you might have got from the ESPA or something like that, or your current data from your classrooms. So once you have that, then you use the state LCAP draft. So they actually give you a template to use. That's what you're seeing. And then they have a same, like I said before, a template that's the same for schools as well. You want to ensure that the alignment with the district-wide improvement strategies and school SIPs, you want to make sure they're aligned. And then an important part of for districts and with the LCAP is to make sure that the details about include school leader collaboration, community feedback, and resource equity. I know in the past where there hasn't been a lot of connection between our LCAP and our school buildings. We haven't built in any strategies or monitoring progress. So this year we have that built in where we're leading how you would look at your school improvement plan at your building. And we're doing that as a district as well along the way. And then progress monitoring is an important part of it, an important part of the LCAP, but also then a part of the SIP as well to implementing that. So just again, making sure we're ensuring collaboration with key stakeholders and key school leaders along the way. And I think something that we haven't really done at the district level is, okay, this is our LCAP. How are we doing? Do we need to make any other adjustments? It basically has been something that we put together with pretty close alignment, much better alignment now, but then are there things that we need to adjust as for our district plan, just like a building would make adjustments during the school year for them? And then another sort of that last key step would be to submit the completed plan to the state. It has to show that it's been approved by the school board. So that's why we're here doing that first part tonight. And then next meeting, you'll approve that. There could be 2 years ago, I think, Corey, was it 2 or 3 years ago that you did a federal program review?
Yes, it was 22, 23.
Yeah.
We did the comprehensive review. Yeah.
So you do that every 5 or 6 years. And so this is not a year that we had to do that part. And so it's even more intense than a comprehensive needs assessment. But that would be part of it. If you were in the rotation for that year, that would be part of this process as well. So that you would submit your plan, then you engage in that continuous improvement monitoring, and with the whole goal of it being to improve student outcomes. And again, something I want to emphasize is it's not something we do and then look at the end of the year in order to do the next one. It's that continuous reflecting and changing and making changes. They want you to be resubmitting your LCAP. We want the schools to be making changes and showing leaders as they're out and about that they're making changes, because that's showing that we're truly looking at the data, looking at results, and making adjustments along the way, not just one time a year. So really the steps support a structured approach to school improvement. And we really feel like it can effectively identify weaknesses. We can implement strategic interventions that track student progress over time. And really, I watched a video and I shared it with Dr. Kalahar. It talked about a well-executed LCAP has the power to transform student achievement. So by following those six steps, by tracking and engaging in community, schools, and you can create sustainable improvements. And really the key to success lies in ongoing collaboration among educators and other key stakeholders. So our desired outcome is, with these last 2 points in mind, is district leadership is working to better align our district SIP, our LCAP, and school SIPs through strategic collaboration and district level support. While this is not a new requirement, our goal is to grow beyond compliance really in order to strengthen student achievement across the district through the school improvement process. It has shown to work. And so we're really going to go for it and support that process. We're not going to just hope it is. We're doing strategic things along the year, across the year to do that. One other important connection that I want you to know is that accessing the state or OSPI school improvement financial support is closely connected to the LCAP and SIPs for those schools identified for school improvement. In fact, in the past, all the different, we call them OSSI grants, Office of School Student Success, each of the schools would do their own grant paperwork and they would send it in. This year, it's all coming straight from the district. So I am working with them to make sure our LCAP aligns with what their needs are, and then I'll help them form their grant and submit it there, again, by the end of this month. So the schools that are in Tier 3 and so then are considered in school improvement are Lincoln Elementary, Orchard Middle School, Castle Rock Early Learning Center, Westside High School, and Open Doors Re-engagement Program. Typically, all of those schools would be eligible for some school improvement money. But because with all the federal cuts and those types of things going on, it really is only designed for schools that are in Tier 3 plus. And so that would be Westside High School and Open Doors Re-engagement Program. So we have the same requirements to support, make sure we're aligning resources for all the schools that are in school improvement, but the money for the state money will go to those two schools. And that's what I'll be supporting here in the next couple of weeks. We'll have that ready to go and turn in and then get your approval on the school improvement plans and then submit that all at one time. So do you have any questions?
Thanks, Tim. I just want to add a couple things. Not only are the grants due at the end of the month, as well as the LCAP and the OSPI or OSSI schools, school improvements. That's why we're having you look at them now, have some discussion around that, and then approve them. You will see all schools are required to have a school improvement plan. However, we have a different timeline for the other schools. And so you'll see the rest of the SIP plans kind of staggered in November. We'll put them on two different board packets so that you don't feel overwhelmed with school improvement plans. They'll come in a staggered fashion. But Tim, I just appreciate your leadership on this. And I would honestly say that before this year and this LCAP, I don't think I've ever seen these. They have not been something that have been a collaborative practice in our district. I knew they existed in some way, shape, or form, but I really have to appreciate Tim, who came to me and said, we need a different approach on this. And it's been a great collaborative effort. And I think that it's going to really not only model what we'd like to see in our buildings and schools, but help support everyone on the same trajectory. So thanks, Tim. And I would open it up to conversation question from the board.
It seems like there's been more collaboration at the building level between what the district is doing, what they're doing. It seems like that would be more support. Have the building administrator felt that same, like, oh, I didn't realize how much work this was until you started helping me do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been doing school improvement plans this way for a long time. I was at Lincoln for a long time and we had a lot of work to do. And so that's where my sort of love for this came, because I saw the power of how it helped me work with my staff. So it really was more within the building. But this year I've heard more than, and we did we shared the LCAP with the building leaders and then asked them, what do you think? And they're saying, now we understand the connection between what the district is doing and what we're doing and then what we need. And so it's a combination of the two, but the things that we're focusing on were really strategic in supporting building leaders in order to do the things that that need to be done. And it's not something separate. It just is a collaboration, providing different ways of collecting information, different strategies for them to use. So it's been powerful. This year alone, just to see their thanks for it being super supportive for them. Yeah.
you want, Martin, you want to go before
No,
I go
it's fine,
again?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm gonna go anyway.
You're gonna go. I would expect nothing less. I we talked in like of course said in the workshop in September about how are we using the equity review to actually make change in the district. And so I went through the SIP and I went through the LCAP and I went through the whole equity review with the help of AI. But yeah, but you know, how are we taking those recommendations from the equity review and actually incorporating them into what we're doing as a district? And so I wanted to highlight a couple of them. Because I think there's some very concrete examples of how this LCAP, district-wide LCAP, is taking those specific recommendations from the equity review and incorporating them in like a meaningful way. Like there's plenty of places where it says we would like to use the equity lens while we're allocating resources, and I appreciate that. But like when it's there's a couple places where you're actually using the disaggregated data and you're tracking that now. So it's not just that we would like to have a data-driven decision. It's no, disaggregate is important. That we want to make sure that we're serving people. And this isn't a question. This is just I'm going to tell some things to everyone. But I think I really appreciate that you are working that into. This is something that we're monitoring. This is something that's going to continue to be like kind of holding ourselves accountable to not just who we're serving, how we're serving them, but that we want to actually track that. So that's something that added in. One of the other things was about community engagement, as you've actually added like a Title I parent group into the discussion. So you're creating a new way to see how we're serving our students and how we're serving our parents, which are such a big part of, I mean, as we've all heard, like the communication piece is so important. And by putting something in saying that we are adding an additional way to receive that feedback, I think is incredibly important. And then the other thing is formalizing some of the ways that you provide professional development, because I think again it's really easy to say that we have professional development time, but when you are saying specifically, and this is the equity lens we're using for that professional development time, I really appreciate that. Not only you've done that across to the district LCAP, but you're pushing that out to the buildings and supporting them in that and putting some kind of concrete changes into the LCAP so that we're kind of doing the work that we know we need to do, but I actually see it happening. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, I really feel like it's a repository to show what we're doing. It really and I think it has been for a while, but we really haven't had it reflect the true work that we're doing like we are now. And so then it does allow us to move forward at a different level, more strategically, and to make it more school-wide, district-wide, to truly get the resources and the progress monitoring, and I think we've had last year and this year, a real tight connection between special programs, between learning and teaching, between all those different departments. And really, this is what we need to be doing for our professional development plan. It's getting to the things that we need for our bilingual students. It's getting to the things that all students need that we're not seeing happen. So with that, that collaboration has been another part of why it's been easier to put this together in a strategic way. And then, like I said, this year, it's really evident to building administrators to see those connections. So again, it's not something separate. It's all going in the same direction.
Continuous improvement's been part of my life from when I first started work as an engineer, and we called it optimization. And it's a two-way process, grassroots up and outside down. And I see that characteristic in what's happening here when you talk about the district and the schools working together. So given that it's something that I spent a whole work life involved in different arenas, I sort of scanned and read this looking for on a comparative basis. And there were several things that I thought were really interesting. One that was very promising was to see inadequacies identified in the document along with corrective action. And you don't always see that. Very often people are just filling in data. So I think that was a very strong thing to do. And just as a spot on to see attendance highlighted as a topical thing, but really impacted by all sorts of other things. And by the way, equity and parental involvement is, that's great. In terms of getting other people's feedback, it's so difficult to do with surveys and not ideal. I was interested to see the Superintendent's Advisory Council was supposed to be student feedback. But if, and then I just want to throw out a kind of a renegade thing. I've gone through situations where students gave feedback on how to improve classes, and it's always got totally bogged down. You talked about too much work, too much informed. But I just say it deliberately because it is important to think about how we get the students to say. In the Superintendent's Advisory Council, the students will say, we are the experts on what it's like being a student. For heaven's sake, listen to us. But all of this is part of the cultural characteristic of a healthy self-improvement plan for the group. And I think it was really pleased to see that. Then I did have one question that I actually asked by memo, is the curriculum adoption, and that some of the programs were 20 years. Now, I got an answer that you've got a projected plan of renewing the curriculum. And I guess I have a budgeting question. How big a deal is it to renew, change, develop a new primary curriculum vehicle? Is it something that is already well contemplated in the base budget, or is this something that we're going to have to be aware of?
I can answer that, and Sean can back me up if he needs to. I think that it is definitely something that we have to plan for and know what our cycle is. And so during that process, when Martin asked the question, between getting the question and then providing a response, Amber shared with us the curriculum longitudinal schedule. So we do have that mapped out, but it is something that Sean has to work individually with the Learning and Teaching Department to plan for. It is a robust undertaking to redo English language arts for an entire district. And this year we'll know because we're doing social studies for an entire district as well. So it's quite an undertaking and something that we do have to plan for extensively. So we don't take those curricular changes lightly, but to your point, they need to be more often than every 20 years.
So I forgot what is supposed to be my opening point, which is I'm very glad we're doing this as a discussion. I think over the years, we've sat through a lot of presentations of improvement plans and nodded them through on the consent agenda or something like that. And I'm just going to say it's part of the powerful message that we're serious and everybody should be working together, hopefully is, that the board will be well informed and demonstrate buy-in.
Thank you.
Tim, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Okay. Yes. Next we have Executive Director of Business and Finance, Sean Fitzgerald, who presented a minimum fund balance slide deck to us on June 3rd, and we engaged in a discussion during that board meeting. Today, we know a lot more about the 24-25 school year, also the budget for the 25-26 school year, and Sean has an update and some time for discussion as well. And I just want to add that we often talk about the budget, especially in June and August, right? And we also talk about budget reductions when we get to spring. Well, tonight's conversation is equally about our current year and the years of the future, but also about long-term financial planning as well as long-term financial stability for the district. So Sean, thanks for being here tonight and engaging us in minimum fund balance conversation, the MFB, as we love to call it.
Thank you, Dr. Kalahar. President Jackson, members of the board, Dr. Kalahar, it's great to be here again tonight to present an update on the minimum fund balance and our continued discussion on this topic. So some familiar slides you'll see. Our goals provides for the minimum fund balance. And the minimum fund balance is kind of the reserves within the reserves. So we have our entire fund balance, but we also have an additional segment that we set aside in case of, these four areas we're looking at. So providing sufficient cash flow for daily financial operations, securing and maintaining investment grade bond rating, as we saw and heard during our discussion with our bond refinancing last year when we did our presentation with Moody's. One of the things they looked at was our fund balance reserves and our minimum fund balance specifically. Also to offset significant economic downturns or revenue shortfalls, and then provide funds for unforeseen expenditures related to emergencies. But ultimately, of all these four goals, we're looking at what is the minimum amount of reserves the district needs to set aside in order to operate and accomplish these goals. So some history, the district's current policy of 5% budgeted expenditures was adopted in August of 2011. And so over the past 15 years, a lot of things have changed. So we know enrollment was increasing at that time. So enrollment peaked, as we know from the enrollment presentations from the last few years. We know our enrollment peaked in 2015-16 at 7655, and we're currently sitting at 6450. We also look at assessed value, which affects both our levy rates and local effort assistance funding from the state. So back in 2011, our assessed value in the district area was 3.7 billion, and over the next 3 years, it would actually decline by $400 million. So kind of some context there. Our preliminary 2026 projection is 8.5 billion. So in terms of local effort assistance funding, increased assessed value, decreasing enrollment means less local effort assistance revenue from the state. It was also pre-McCleary. So in August, that case would not be decided. The Washington Supreme Court would not issue its opinion until January of 2012, and we would not see an implementation with the school districts until the 2018-19 school year. So as we know from McClear, that drastically overhauled how we look at approach levies and levy collections and salary schedules, affecting school funding from top to bottom. It was also before the pandemic as well. Some things more or less that stayed the same was we had the same infrastructure, but it was only 14 years younger. So where are we at now? Enrollment decline, both actual and projected, for the current and foreseeable future is projected to decline. As I mentioned earlier, local effort assistance, this fluctuates annually based on enrollment and assessed value, but we know current trends and historical trends in the last few years have shown, again, sustained enrollment decline and increasing sustained assessed value, which again translates to less funding from the state for us. We also have increasing inflationary costs. Again, these continue to outpace state funding, such as insurance or salaries and benefits. We also have federal funding uncertainty. So since July, we've been concerned about funding for about 4 to 5 of our federal programs. And one of the things we were looking at was the completion of the 2025-2027 biennium federal budget, which should have been completed by this time. However, as we know, DC is in a bit of a shutdown right now. So we are still waiting to see where we're going to end up on the federal funding question. It's something that is on our mind, and we're continuing just to wait on further news on that area. State funding. So back in June, the district had to utilize almost $640,000 of our minimum fund balance reserves due to a state funding issue. As you know from budget presentations, I've spoken about budget capacity and having sufficient resources to implement and sufficient budget authority to approve expenditures. And the state in their prior budget did not do that. So we did receive our full funding in July, but we had to dip down in our reserves for that shortfall in June, which going back, I cannot recall a similar circumstances in prior years of something of that happening. Some more recent news, the state is now projecting $900 million less in revenue collection over the next 4 years. And the legislatures are already discussing for the next legislative session additional taxes and more cuts. And as we know, last year they projected a giant budget shortfall and implemented a lot of cuts and additional taxes. And at the time, it seemed like the issue was resolved, but here we are again, a new year and a new budget shortfall from the state. So again, something we're going to have to be paying close attention to as we head into January as the start of the legislative session. Again, maintenance and operations. We have aging infrastructure, preventative emergency projects. Again, as the board knows, we have allocated $500,000 in committed fund reserves to be allocated to the capital projects to address these projects. And then other things, again, just being aware of compliance with unfunded mandates. So again, one of these is the Clean Energy Act, among other things. And so these are the things and the risks we're kind of looking at when we consider what amount of funds we need to set aside and what we want to use our minimum fund balance reserves for. Again, familiar slide with just some additional detail. Again, there is no required minimum fund balance threshold. It is set by the school board, which is again reflected in district policy. However, so it's up to each school and each district to decide based on their circumstances, what is the appropriate amount to set aside to accomplish the goals we went over in the first slide. So again, the district's current policy is at 5% and how that compares with recommendations or other areas. So if we go up 8%, kind of matches our average monthly expenditures and also Eastmont Schools District's policy. Moody's, which we've discussed when they look at our bond finance rating, recommend 10.5%. And then finally, we have the State Auditor's Office and the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA, recommending 60 days of cash reserves, which translates to roughly about 16% of our minimum fund balance, which is actually more than our entire fund balance, unassigned and restricted as well. So some things to take into consideration. Again, nothing is set in stone, but again, it's left up to the district's, judgment and circumstances to decide what is the appropriate amount. One more thing. So some of the things as I go into the next couple of slides, so sufficient reserves are needed to cover district expenditures and mitigate risk between October and April. I'll go into more detail on the next slide about that. And then districts cannot rely on the restricted fund balance to address revenue shortfalls or unanticipated expenditures. Again, those funds are set aside for specific purposes and again, may be used in certain circumstances, but only for those areas. The unassigned fund balances, essentially the districts are legally, these funds have no legal restraints and they're free to be used in any capacity that the district deems necessary. So again, another familiar slide from the monthly financial reports. I've added though the kind of the dash red line there at the bottom, which kind of establishes a minimum fund balance for the 24-25 school year. So that's roughly about $6.7 million. So you can see just going back the last 4 school years that we've stayed above that line, which is great. And so just again, following our revenue trends throughout the school year, you can see a pretty similar trend over the 4 school years. Again, October and April are our highest months. That's when we receive our levy funding for collection of property taxes. And then July and August are also high revenue months because that's when we receive our largest amount of state apportionment money. But then you'll notice between October and April, we dip quite a bit. And between then, we're solely really relying on state apportionment. But again, they're kind of lower apportion amounts. The state pays out based on a set schedule in the RCWs, set by the RCWs. So between October and April, we're really paying attention as we're essentially drawing down on our fund balance reserves during that time as we wait for them to replenish in April. So we have to assure we have a sufficient funds set aside to accomplish that goal. And then you can see it kind of dip down again in May and June before rebounding in July and August. Again, we receive our bulk of our state monies at the end of the school year. So this slide is illustrating where, going back to, the district cannot rely on the restricted fund balance to accomplish, minimum fund balance goals. So what this is doing is taking out, just focusing on, okay, what if we didn't have a restricted fund balance reserve? What are we actually utilizing throughout the school year? So the top line, the purple line, that reflects our actual activity during the 24-25 school year so it's really focusing on our minimum fund balance, our remaining unassigned, and then our committed fund balance reserves used to mitigate budget reductions. And so you can see we stayed above our 5% minimum fund balance policy up until June, when we got the revenue shortfall from the state. So we slightly dipped below before we got all our monies back in July as well. But then we have the two lower lines, and we have to ask ourselves, okay, we have this policy, and we're saying that the district can operate on 5% of budgeted expenditures. And so if we're taking a look at the blue line, with the bottom line, which is actually set, so it's like, well, let's say we started off the actual school year at 6.8 million. Could we progress through the entire school year with that amount of funding? And so more or less, yes. However, once we get to June and that revenue shortfall, again, which none of us anticipated, and we were given no heads up until June from the state, we would essentially be left with about $15,000 just in our unassigned general fund balance. And so we have to ask ourselves, okay, is this a policy that can sustain and meet the goals that we've discussed in the first slide? And then if we adopt a 6% hypothetical, in that same situation, we would have an additional $1.3 million in our reserves at that time. Any questions on that slide?
I think I get it. But so the purple line is based on the unassigned money we have.
Yeah.
And so we're fine. Everything's fine.
Yep.
But when we start looking at, like, as we look at our budget increasing and like more uncertainty from our state and federal funding sources, if we were to say, no, really, this is all the money we have, is this 5%, we would be not a great situation, especially since this would probably look worse for 26, 27.
Perhaps. I mean, this circumstance in June is unusual.
Sure.
But it's like, that's the point of the minimum fund balance, is that we are setting aside funding for unusual or unanticipated events as well.
Right. But $15,000 is not a big number.
No.
That's definitely kind of like,
Yep.
we were almost there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and the fact that March happens every year
Yep.
too,
John, I just want to clarify in my own mind, the minimum fund balance would be permitted for transitory use within a budget year, provided you corrected it and made up by the end of the budget year.
Yeah, correct. So the purpose, and again, following district policy, is we want to maintain our reserves at the minimum fund balance level by year end. Correct. And then the second goal is ensuring that amount that we've set aside can maintain operations throughout the school year.
Yeah, that's an important distinction from Martin, is that we are able to fluctuate throughout the year and use that minimum fund balance where necessary, as long as we end that year we're above that. Yeah, it's good clarification.
But don't we have board policy that if it needs board approval if we fall below that 5%?
So the board has given, through the budget process and improving the expenditures, the appropriations in the budget, the board is essentially giving permission to, it's like, hey, we're going to spend this amount of money, and essentially in giving permission to go below the minimum fund balance level during the school year. One of the things right now is just like, again, then it's the second part is like, okay, how do we ensure that it's like, okay, yes, the board has given permission for these appropriations to go below the minimum fund balance level. But at the same time, the board has also, through district policy, stated that our goal is to maintain our reserves at least 5% by the end of the school year. So with this, again, the bottom two lines are hypotheticals. We are not in that situation. We are in the purple line, just to clarify. That's where we're at. But in basis, we are saying with our policy that 5% is sufficient to accomplish our goals. And just using that hypothetical based on the actual data during the 24-25 school years, we would be in a tough spot in June of 2025 because of that.
And actual, puts us still below Moody's, and, 2 slides ago, right, with Moody's is recommending 10.5%. And so we're below that in terms of what we have, and, above our average monthly expenses and Eastmont at 8%, but, that's something to be aware of, that
Correct.
we're playing with a 9.6%, not the reality of we're only setting aside that 5%.
Correct. So again, just going back to August with our 25-26 budget and forecast, 5% minimum fund balance set for 25-26, and then the next 3 years after that. These forecasts are going to be updated here shortly in the next couple of weeks. So already this data is, really outdated, but it's kind of giving us perspective like where we're at in August. And so we can see again with the 5% reserves, just highlighting decrease. We've budgeted again $2.4 million deficit. Again, that's what's been approved, not necessarily where we're going to be ending up. But for budgeted purposes, that's what we've planned for. But on the bottom table, we have the minimum fund balance and then the unassigned fund balance. And so you can say, okay, 5% of 135.3, that gives us roughly about 6.8 million. And then $1.8 million here in unassigned. And then even with, we've already taken some budget reductions, are already kind of behind the scenes incorporated into this forecast, we're still projecting decreasing fund balance over the next 4 years, and we're continuing to draw down on that unassigned fund balance as well.
And also our minimum fund balance, our budget's going up, so the minimum fund balance is also going up. So we have to find money to meet that minimum need, in addition to, making sure we have all the money we need for the budget.
Correct. And part of that is also inflationary as well. But yes, to your point, yes. Here again, same again, but playing with the 6%. So 25-26, that budget's already been set. So we are still set at 5% minimum fund balance, but taking into account an increase, okay, let's increase our minimum fund balance by 1%. That essentially moves about $1.3 to $1.4 million from the unassigned column or the unassigned row to then to the minimum fund balance. And so you can see with the same amount of reductions, we start getting the negative number in 27, 28, and 28, 29. So what does that mean? It means we would have to take, as part of our budget reduction rationale, we would say, hey, we are looking at now, we are not meeting our minimum fund balance reserve. So we would have to take some sort of additional reduction amount in those next 2 years. If these trends, if this forecast stayed the same, we would be looking at some more additional reductions to maintain fund balance reserves than we would have been at 5%. The overall fund balance is not changing. It's just how we're allocating our resources between the two slides. Again, minimum fund balance increases roughly about 1.3 million, sometimes up to 1.4 million, depending on the year, because it fluctuates annually based on budgeted expenditures. One of the things, again, as part of our continuing discussion is to increase the minimum fund balance gradually to avoid unnecessary budget reductions. But again, as part of the policy, the goal is to maintain the minimum fund balance at or above policy levels. So in conclusion, as we're looking at going back to my first slide, what is the minimum amount of reserves the district needs to set aside to operate during the school year and have sufficient reserves to address risks? And again, it's like this is not something that's happening overnight. This is a long-term financial planning goal that the district should be looking at. And the question we should be asking, is 5% an adequate amount? And running one of those just that hypothetical for the 24-25 school year, it raises concerns. And every year, we know the district is drawing down on our fund reserves to mitigate budget reductions as part of our plan. And we also know we have actual and projected enrollment decline to continue for the near and foreseeable future. All right, any other questions?
This is a discussion topic, so I made some notes to add my discussion to it. I'm rightly not a member of the budget committee anymore, so this is discussion in general board level. My personal opinion is that we should be at 6% for a minimum reserve as of now for this year. I had suggested this previously, informally, technically, in general discussions. I did not move to try and make any kind of formal recommendation so that we could see what the results were at the end of 24-25. We've been running several years basically ahead of our obligations, and it would have been a very nice, easy situation to say, hey, effectively, we operate as if we have a 6 or 7% minimum fund balance. And I think that was influential in our credit rating for the refinancing of the bonds. I don't think that is the case anymore. As you see, over time, we're projecting and there is a reality, a gradually declining amount, and we're now pretty close to the 5%. And the bigger change that's happened is that the volatility of funding that we've experienced in the district in the last 6 months has changed. And I think that's an environmental structural change that we should expect to live with. One of the purposes of the reserve is to fund lumpy timing within a budget year and in revenues, and you can adapt within a budget year, but you've still got to get it all back by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
The other critical thing that a reserve does, it enables operations to continue in an orderly way without disruption and gives the district time to adapt and adjust. So it's really important that you can do that. The other thing that we all are very much aware of as you look at budget cutting is there's a trade-off between your rainy day fund and your operations. You can't fund a rainy day fund on prayers. You've got to over time commit to putting money into that. But I think looking at the volatility where I reach, and this is a generalized comment, not unique as an individual looking at the world in general, is if I were advising a private entity or a family household, I would suggest taking action for safety reasons. I'd call it accident prevention reasons, because the harm that's likely to result from not acting will be almost certainly sometime in the near term, medium term, maybe future, be more greater than the cost of timely self-defense in creating a stronger bottom line to be handling the volatility that you experience. And I think this is a discussion that we've been having informally over the last year. And I think we're now looking at it in a harsh light. And at that point, I think all members of the board, all members of the district with financial responsibility should be thinking about, what, exactly as you say, what should we be doing?
Mm-hmm. Sean, so what happens in that June we go down below zero? Like, is that someone doesn't get a paycheck? That's my understanding, is that we won't have any money to do something that we need to do with the money?
In that case, we're petitioning OSPI for an advanced payment. So then they would give us money that we are owed or expected from the remainder of our apportionment schedule. So what we would get in July and August, they would give us in advance. And then in return, they would charge us interest. And so once we get our funding back, then it's like, okay, we've paid off our debts, we're in good shape, and then we'll be making some sort of payment on interest to them. Yeah.
So we don't bounce a check, but we then get less money from the state moving forward because of the interest on what we were essentially loaned.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
One question, there is a different landscape of making within the year abrupt budget changes. There are all sorts of restrictions apart from disruption in that nature. So in theory, that could be one of the consequences of not going to OSBI, but unilaterally do something that actually could be, if it was permitted, extremely disruptive in the short term. Is that correct?
Correct. All right, thank you.
Yeah, Sean, thank you. I appreciate the discussion tonight. And we were asked to bring that back to the conversation as a discussion point, and we will do that again as time goes on. Right now, there is not currently a plan for action, but more updates on the minimum fund balance as we navigate and negotiate the 25-26 school year, close out the 24-25 budget, and then talk budget reductions as we round into the new year. So excellent. Oh, and we're moving on to policies. Okay, so we had a host of non-substantive policies that were in the on the consent agenda, and we have 3 to talk about tonight. The first one is policy 1111, and this is oath of office. And changes were made to the model policy to reflect accurate legal references and a clearer process. Along with the laws of the state of Washington, there were some grammatical changes as well. And as a policy committee, we did not have a whole lot of discussion here and moved that forward. Maria, anything to add? Okay, any thoughts or discussion from the board?
I had one question. In our previous ethical conduct policy, it included conversations to resolve ethical questions in a constructive way. Looking at WASDA's model policies, that appears now to be part of model policy 1825, but we don't have 1825 published. Is that correct?
That
But
is
it's
correct.
actually, I think, almost verbatim what we have in our old policy. Is that right, Kim?
Yes. Yeah, and we have a discussion point on that this evening, so that'll be great. Because that was important to go there now, it was important for our policy committee that we maintain those, even if we didn't have an 1825, and so we'll talk about that in just a sec. Yeah, thanks for bringing that, Martin. And I started off with the wrong one. I apologize. I went straight to the second one. My bad. So let's go back to the first one. Or I mean, I guess we go either way here. Maybe we'll just go into 1815 since we've talked about it. We had a little snafu. And what we had is we had a great discussion and dialogue as a policy committee. And then we made the updates, which was really keeping the integrity of what this board had created for 1815 in the current policy, which really did not require us to have an 1825. Kim made those updates, sent it to Maria and Julie after I approved it. Everybody was happy, but that version did not make it onto what you all read. And so with our apologies, we're going to recommend that we table this policy for tonight so that you can actually see the updates that the policy committee made and how they were reflected in the 1815 version and allow us to feel comfortable not having an 1825. And so if we're all good with that, we'll table that conversation. We'll allow Kim and I will get that other version to you in the weekly on Friday so you can see that and have some time to marinate in it, reflect on it, and then with any questions and concerns, we would bring that back maybe for second read on October 28th after everyone has had a chance to see it, vet it, and have some dialogue around it. Is that okay? Okay, appreciate that. Sorry for the confusion there. Bouncing back to the first one, 5260. This one, this policy is personnel records, updated based on House Bill 1308 to improve employee access to personnel records. The policy outlines how staff members access their personnel files, how they share concerns about the contents, if any, and potentially remove concerning documents or write a statement to share their thoughts on those concerning documents. Again, we didn't have a whole lot of dialogue on this one, but we decided to move that forward. So, any other thoughts? Okay, excellent. What's next, President Jackson?
I believe you're back up for the superintendent report.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Well, we have the last 2 weeks, today and yesterday, were a breath of fresh air.
Literally.
Like quite literally. And the 2 weeks before that has been a series of outdoor air quality monitoring, as we all know, which means indoor recess, which means moving sports, meaning that we had our first home football game last Friday, which was great that we were able to have that. But we also battled some indoor air quality. So as the AQI reached levels above 200, above 220, we had some areas where we saw the indoor air quality was being impacted at a higher rate. And so most pronounced is the high school. And so we worked, I'm trying to think of the date, a week ago, Friday, Kelly and Eric and I were scrambling really to make an impact at the high school because the indoor air quality was reaching unhealthy areas. And so we reached out to the health district to collaborate with them. We reached out to Turner Restoration so that we could get some air scrubbers that were up north and bring those in. And then on Tuesday of last week, we brought in those air scrubbers from Turner Restoration, but we also, the health district brought in 2 additional air scrubbers in the morning, and then we got 7 more units in the afternoon. And then we also received 14 of what are called box fans, filtered box fans. It's really an elaborate situation. You've seen these, they're box fans that have a filter slapped on it, on the back. And they work, and you can see them actually do the work. Eric and I were impressed. We set them up in the morning, and then by 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they have like this ring of dirt and smoke particles and things that they're collecting from the air. But all of that to say that those efforts helped us bring the indoor air quality down to an acceptable place where there were teachers and students that were wearing masks, and that was for their own personal safety. The next day, we actually saw those teachers' faces, those students' faces. It was really great, and we were able to kind of mitigate that. And now we are equipped with 14 additional box fans. The health district said they're yours. We don't want them back, so we have them for the future, and we know how to do that well. So that was just a sharing of that information. It was a great experience, and we also have some indoor air quality monitors that we have for the district now that we can utilize as well. So it was a good experience. 6th grade wildfire field experience. If it wasn't fitting enough, last week and this week, our 6th graders are visiting the Columbia River Breaks Fire Interpretive Center in INEAD as part of their science classes to learn about forest ecology and wildfires. And in addition to learning about wildfires and wildfire prevention, students have the opportunity to engage with professionals who work in the field and learn more about their jobs. And on last Friday, all of our parents and students and staff know that we had a non-school day so that our educators could engage in professional development opportunities throughout the district. So we had teachers working in their professional learning communities during that time. They were also involved in large group learning activities. Some folks were at Newberry Elementary. Some were here in the district office in the main boardroom. And then we had folks at Wenatchee High School's New Commons as well. Structured reading and writing, explicit sentence instruction, essential learning strategies, lesson design, and engagement techniques, to name a few areas that were studied. And I know our teachers value these days of training to impact and inform their instruction and also reduce the achievement gap and increase student outcomes. So just as a notice to what we're doing on those days when our students are at home, they're very valued. Also, just a reminder, Thursday is our Migrant Family Night at the Commons at Wenatchee High School. Please join us for a great evening of learning. We're going to be talking about attendance. And I think Jacqueline from Pioneer will be talking about attendance. We'll be talking about grading and then strategies to support reading at home. All right. Thank you. That is the superintendent's report for this week.
Wonderful. Thank you. And that puts us to board communication. Maria, you want to go first? All right. The quick one right up top. Nice work. Mark, do you think you can follow that?
We shouldn't have 3 weeks between board meetings. I know, well, it happens. I had an amazing, I really only, not even quite an hour at Sunny Slope, sorry, for their school families event. And it was super impressive. What they do is all from K through 5, they form families of, in this case, about 7 students. The 4th and 5th graders are like mentors and coaches. The others are learning to relate to them. And they work together with cues, but student-led, to create a flag with their family where each of them puts their own little emblem and their own little story. And that was kind of an interesting to see the behavior. But the mechanics of this are similar to having high school. We listened to JROTC talking about getting into the middle school. This is like 5th graders getting back to 1st and Ks. And I believe there may be good behavior on the recess and on the buses because the students relate to each other in a very constructive way. And I hope I'm not stealing things from Lance, but he's saying that actually some of the teachers enjoyed it because when they were sitting in with a group, they got to meet students who weren't in their classes. But this is you'd have to do it in a small school, I think. I think Sunny Slope got the idea from smaller schools, but it was a very interesting socially constructive action within one of our elementary schools. So that was fun. Other great visit, I asked to go to the Columbia campus to see Valley in their new home and briefly transitions in their new home and see how the building is being used, how much work went into getting everything ready in the summer. And there's still places to be cleaned up after that. So thank you, everybody who burnt the midnight oil making that change. But it was very interesting to see how it was used. Also to see a little bit of the differences between the Valley culture and patterns of flow in the students and the other schools, and also see how Valley had expanded to have older students and a fairly open door for siblings and parents, and gives you different social management. So it was good to see it working, and people were actually just getting over exhaustion and about to start hitting the running course. And it was great to be able to do that, and I wanted to appreciate that. I was able to go to Cafe's Gala last Friday and see a partner and the good work they're doing in education. And then I asked to sit in on Professional Development Day, and I didn't know what I was getting into. Only for a short time at each time, no way to get not rolling. But it was interesting to me to be aware of the structural similarities between mathematics and language arts. You don't really think that way. They both have the building blocks. They've got different names and they're different building blocks. And you have to learn to get them into a process where they communicate and relate with each other. And then you have to learn to understand the process and apply it and use it. And it was educational to see the principles of how you work through knowledge in a structured way, once in language arts and once in mathematics. And they were not dissimilar in some ways. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then something I loved, one of the exercises actually was in reading, and it was a work from Avid. And I wrote on the hand, we put language, math, and financial literacy all in one thing about shrinkflation. What the hang does that word mean? When companies size down their products so they don't necessarily increase the price. So the customer's paying more, but doesn't necessarily see it. So you see, you have to understand mathematics, you have to understand financial literacy, and you have to be able to read, because they're all of these words. And when I think about we talk about lingual learners and how you learn where you don't necessarily have the cultural reference points or the language reference points. When I looked at that, I just said, wow, in this one article, we've got technical jargon, we've got idiomatic speech, we've got cultural references like brand names and all sorts of contextual thing. And that's before you get to academic vocabulary in the basic writing of grammatical English. It really was an eye-opener to me of how important reading is. And one of the emphasis was you got to read to be able to understand to be able to do your math problems. How do you write? And this was a math problem, a logic problem. And to see the interrelationships. I'm going on a little bit because I haven't a clue. I'm not a teacher, not an educator. But you see the relationships and the power and the need, and also some of the challenges that we have in a world where there are a lot of barriers to reading. One of them is called social media. But to see that you have to take on these problems and work on it. So it was a great educational experience for me, which is why I wanted to share it a little with the rest of you.
Thank you, Martin. Mark?
Well, I had all these things to talk about, but you just took them all. No, I just, yeah, that was it. Ditto.
Ditto. All right. Hard to follow ditto. I was going to say to my fellow board members, we are going to, on November 12th, we're talking about the bond and we need to pick a date. So if there's any information you would like from the district, please let them know for when we're going to run the bond. Yeah. So it's not like we need to have all the details about the bond. We just have to, is it February 26? Is it November 26 or is it February 27? So just broad strokes, but just, I don't want anyone to be like, whoa, because I think November 12th is the date where we want to set a date. Okay. And I can't tell you guys all that without telling everyone all about that. All right, you get to go last.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to give a shout out. I talked to a lot of people. I talked to a lot of kids who said students at the high school, they're not kids, who were complaining to a random adult, me, about smoke in the hallways at the high school. And then the consensus being like, oh yeah, it's way better. And so, you guys talk about all the things you're doing, but I think it's being noticed, not just, so, rather than it being something that you're saying, we did the things, people notice. And I think teachers and students have been appreciative. And I appreciate you guys reaching out to the health district. Like, we have community partnerships and you guys are using those. And by using those, we strengthen that connection to the school district. And also, it's sometimes we need to lean on other people and we are modeling that. So thank you for doing that. Now, Maria, back to you. Feel free to use a ditto.
No, I actually have something. Totally spaced. So the priorities. Thank you for those that have gotten me your priorities. Apparently, there's other schools that didn't submit their priorities, so they extended the deadline. So if you haven't, I'm not gonna make eye contact. If you haven't submitted your priorities to me, please do. Because we have until the Thursday to submit them. So I will resubmit with everyone that I get. So
Thank you for that reminder. All right, I guess we're good. So meeting adjourned. Thanks for everyone.